Hello everybody, thanks for joining me today. I'm Jackie and I create mosaics using sea glass. And today I'm going to answer two questions that I get about gluing sea glass onto glass. One is, how much silicone do I use? And the second question that I often get is, how long does it take to set? Now the answer to both of those questions is it depends. So join me for a little bit more of a detailed explanation on that. So if you've been following me on YouTube, chances are you've seen the two videos that I've done on what to use for glue when creating sea glass mosaic projects. And I'm not going to repeat what I've done in those two videos. If you haven't seen them, you can click on the two cards up above and you can watch those videos. The first video gives you all sorts of detail on why I use silicone to create my sea glass mosaics. And the second video answers a bunch of questions about that. But this video, I'm not going to repeat all that stuff. I'm just going to answer two new questions that I've gotten, or that I've continued to get. They're not new questions, but I continue to get questions about how much silicone to use and how long does it take to set. Because what happens is people give this a try and then they find they still have questions. And I love getting your emails, by the way. If you want to send me questions, either by posting them in the comments section down below, or through my website, or through my Facebook site, or through Messenger. I love getting questions and comments about my work. So don't hesitate to send me an email if you want. And so today what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a bit of a demonstration on how much glue to use, because a lot of times I'm just talking about my designs and how I set things up and how I arrange the pieces of sea glass. And I don't always take the time to let you see how I'm gluing the pieces on. So I'll give you a bit of a demonstration on that. And then I'm going to give you a bit of an explanation of how long it takes for this to set, because this is not fast art. And I think sometimes people have created a project and then they want to give it away to a gift for somebody the next day. And then they're looking at the back and the silicone's still white and things aren't set and it's still loose and they're kind of getting discouraged. But it does take a while for this to set. But it's worth the wait, because then once it's set, it's set. And the longer that you've let it sit there, the longer it's going to be set. And it's not going to yellow and it's not going to fall off, and there's all these advantages for using silicone. So it's worth the wait, but it's not fast art. So I've already laid out these pieces here, and I wanted to show you a little bit of a close-up on gluing the pieces on. So the first thing is to make sure you have all the right tools. So I use this Quick Seal Kitchen and Bath Adhesive Caulk, and this is a product that goes on white and then it dries clear. So I'm just going to show you, if I'm going to glue a piece on, how much glue do you use? It depends on how big the piece is. So this is kind of a medium-sized piece. So I'm going to put a pretty fair dollop of silicone on there. And then I'm just going to press it in place. And then I'll do the next one. Now I like to clean up any messy bits, but I usually glue a few on before I do a bit of cleaning up. Although you can see right there that some came squishing out the side. So I like to clean that up. Have some paper towel here, just wipe off the excess. Now what I'm using to clean off the bits that seep out from around, I have a few different things. I like to use toothpicks, and this is a toothpick with kind of flat edges, so one side is skinnier than the other, so I'd use whichever one is going to fit the best. And then I've got a toothpick with pointy edges, and I have a barbecue skewer. And these, one is a pointy edge, one has a flat edge. So then I've got different edges to use for cleaning depending on how much has been put there, or how much has seeped out and how much mess there is to clean up. So this piece is a little bit bigger, so I'm going to use a bit bigger bit of a dollop. Put that on. And it does help to have your pieces laid out a bit before you go to glue on. So you see I didn't put too much on this one because it's a skinnier one, and I don't want too much stuff seeping out around the edges. And then for this one, like, you don't need a ton. I find if you use too much, it's going to be really messy. If you don't use enough, it's not going to be on secure enough. And then when you have pieces like this that are kind of curved in, you might have to put a little bit extra so that it touches the glass. Once you get doing this, practice will help. Now, if I have a little piece, like that little piece there, it's a small piece. So the smaller the piece, the less you need to get it to stick. So see, I only have a tiny bit on there. If I put too much, it's really going to make a mess out around the edges. So I just put a little bit, and then I poke it into place. Now, if you have a really big piece, like this is part of a bottle bottom, and it's curved on the inside, so it touches the glass right there, not so much around the edge. But for a piece this big, you need quite a bit more silicone. So I usually put a great big dollop right where the spot is going to be touching the glass, and then I'll go all the way around the edge because I want it touching as much as possible. And the other thing is, I'm going to put it against the bottom of the frame, window frame, so I can put a bit right along there as well. And then I just put that in place, and I see, okay, that seems to be pretty secure. All right, that's good. So there, as you can see, the amount of silicone you use depends on the size of the piece. Here's a bigger piece, so I'm going to put a little bit more here, all the way around the edges. Lay that right there in place, and this one's a little bit bigger. I'm going to use a little bit more. And then here I have one that's quite a bit smaller. So again, just a little bit. And there we go. Now I have enough of those in place here that I'm going to go and take my toothpicks and clean up some of the messy bits. I find it better to clean it up when it's wet because it's fairly easy to clean off, and especially if you get like your wooden sticks really work well to clean it up off the glass. Now when I have a piece like this, I have a piece that's kind of skinny here, but in order for it to fit right in here, I want it to go on its edge. So what I'm going to do is take the silicone and put a tiny bead of silicone right along the edge of the piece of glass. And when I'm holding it with my tweezers, it's really easy just to pop it into place right there. But when you glue a piece of glass on edge like that, you're sure to get some seeping. So I always take my toothpick and just run it along the edge and see if I can get any of that excess silicone off, because it will show and it'll be messy. There we go. So that'll be good once it sets. So you probably notice my quick seal, it says it's clear, but it's going on white. And I kind of like that because when it goes on white, you can see where you're putting it, but it is going to dry clear, and you know it's set once it's dried clear. So even when I'm putting it on the white pieces, I can really see the product that I'm working with, and I can see very clearly how much I'm using. So I love working with the product that goes on white and then dries clear. You can get products that go on clear, and they work just as well in the long run, but I don't find them as easy to work with. And I also find that they have a little bit of an odor, whereas this one I'm not really picking up any odor from it. So this is definitely my product of choice. So I'm just keeping going. I have these great big thick chunky white pieces here. They're just beautiful pieces of sea glass. And then when I do the tiny ones in the middle, see, it's just a tiny dab of silicone. And here I've got quite a generous dab of silicone because it's a bigger piece and it's a thicker piece, so it's going to need a little bit more to hold it in place. The other thing I really like about the silicone is it does take quite a while to set, so it gives me lots of time to kind of fuss with the pieces. So I often will take a section like this and I'll glue them all into place. And then before it's totally set, I'm going to take my little sticks and I'm going to poke at the pieces just to line them up perfectly, because sometimes I have them lined up, but then when I take them off to glue them, they don't go back in exactly the same spot. So when I can take my barbecue skewer and just poke at them, make sure that they're lined up here, especially because I'm wanting to get these flowing lines of sea glass. So I just poke at the pieces and get them lined up, and at the same time I can clear away any of those little messy bits of silicone, and I'll have it just right by the time I walk away from it and let it set for a while. So I have all the pieces in this section glued on, so now I'll just do a little bit of fussing with them just to make sure that I have all of the little bits of silicone cleared off that I can clear off. I find some people will wait until after it dries before they clear off their excess, but I find it a lot easier to clear it off when it's wet. And it just leaves things a little bit tidier and neater in the end, which I'm happier with. So now that I have that cleared on, the next question is, how long does it take to set? Because it does go on white, you know it's set once it's dried totally clear. So I'm going to flip this over and show you what it looks like from the back. Oh, I forgot I had my pattern on. So I'll just take the pattern off the end of it here so you can see what you have here is lots of white silicone. Doesn't look very attractive because you can see all the glue. But once that sets clear, you're not going to be able to see it. So right now, it's not looking very nice. But I'm going to leave that for a bit and I'll come back and show you. When you look at how long does it take to dry, that again depends. And it depends on how much you've used. So what you're going to find is that on some of these smaller pieces where there's not very much silicone, that's going to dry clear really quickly. But now some of the bigger pieces like this, that could be a long, long time, and I mean a long time, before it dries clear. So just as another example to show you how long it can take silicone to set, I'm going to show you the back side of this window, which I finished about a week ago. So the overall look from the back is that the silicone is looking pretty clear. Now this window took me a couple of months to do, and I started from the bottom and worked my way to the top. So if you look at the top area of the window, this is the part that I would have just finished, say in the last week or two. And you can see that most of the silicone has dried clear, but in some areas, like right there, you can see there's still some white, and that's because that's a piece of silicone that, or a piece of glass that required more silicone. So the more silicone you use, the longer it's going to take to dry. And as you go down the window, then the longer it's been setting, because like I say, this would have been probably pushing about a month ago when I did this section, and things are looking pretty clear. But it will still continue to dry and set for a long time. So I know it's still got some more drying to do. And when I look down at this section, not seeing very much white in this section. But what's kind of surprising, when I get down towards the bottom of the window, which is the part that's been done the longest, I'm seeing some definite areas of white. So like on that piece right there, I'm seeing quite a bit of white there, and there's some more white there. And that was from a couple of months ago, because that would have been my very first pane of glass that I did. So as you can see, the more silicone you use, the longer it can take to dry clear. So it may even take longer than a couple of months. And I know from experience that all of that white silicone is going to dry clear. And the clearer it is, the more sturdy it is. And that silicone will not be coming off. So you can see on first glance, you don't really see the silicone. But if you look close, you do. You can see some of the dried silicone on the back. But I think it still gives you the opportunity to have a two-sided piece of art, because you can see from a distance the piece of art looks really interesting. So I've let this sit for about a day, and as you can see on some of the small pieces, the silicone has dried pretty clear already, but on the big pieces there's still a lot of white. And especially with this one right here where there's quite a bit of silicone, I know that's going to take quite a while to dry, but by the time I get finished with the window, a lot of this will have dried clear. So you just have to give it lots of time to dry and set, and the longer it sets, the more set it's going to be. And in the long run, it's a product that I'm very pleased with, and I know that it's going to hold for years to come. So thanks very much for joining me. I hope you found this really helpful, and if you have any other questions or comments or concerns, please don't hesitate to contact me, and I'll do my best to help you out. So until next time, happy sea glass hunting!